Hey, what's up everybody? This is Superk501 and today I want to show you guys a Mayhem 10 Amara build that will allow you to farm everything on Mayhem 10 pretty easily. Now this is using one of the most overpowered weapons in the game, the Yellowcake, which is a new Cartel weapon. And I'm probably going to make a build with every character mainly using this weapon because it is so incredibly strong and it makes it very easy to be able to start farming bosses and farming new legendaries and stuff like that on Mayhem 10 without needing absolute god roll weapons. So with that being said, we can go into the talents. Since we are using the spiritual driver class mod, that dictates a few of our talent choices. So first off, we're going into the brawl tree. 2 in a root rise for max health increase, 3 into personal space for increased damage, 5 into arms deal, which increases our splash damage, and since we're using a launcher, this is just a damage increase. Then 3 into mindfulness gives us that speed boost, which with our class mod gives us a ton of damage increase. Then we're going into the fist of the elements tree. 5 into anima, status effect damage, duration, all really good things. We're using infusion with this build, and I will go over that more when we go into the items, but the main weapon we're using only rolls as radiation, so we do this so we can still get use from the elemental projector artifact. 5 into tempest, increased elemental damage, extra shock damage. Dread, you can change this. This is mainly for just if you accidentally grasp things, or if there's only a few enemies left and you want to grasp one to kill them all very quickly. Mainly we use our action skill to not hit anything, so we can constantly have mindfulness procced on ourselves, but you can still use this quite a bit with keeping mindfulness on yourself all the time. Indiscriminate has a chance to ricochet rounds when you hit stuff. The Yellowcake does actually work with this. You will see the rounds ricochet around, which is really good. Deep well, increased magazine size with elemental weapons. 5 in sustainment, which gives you lifesteal with elemental weapons. How hard Yellowcake hits, if you hit anything with any of the shots, it'll pretty much full heal you every time. That's our main sustainability talents. Then forceful expression, which just increases our damage and gives extra elemental damage on top of everything we hit, which is just a pretty big damage increase. For the artifact talent we are using, or skill we're using, Ties of Bind, if you hit anything with it, which you mainly don't do, you want Ties of Bind because it will then spread that damage over everything and kill big groups really easily. The augments, you can use anything you want. I use a Lord just because it pulls stuff together, makes it easier using a launcher. Then the action skill element, we have access to all 3, so use whichever one is going to be best in that situation. Then we're going into mythical assault, 1 into do harm, mainly just to have it, 1 into violent tapestry, mainly to have it. Fast hands for the reload speed for the most part. Transcend gives critical hit damage, is mainly the thing we want. Yellowcake can crit, which is pretty good. Then we're going 5 in alacrity, which is reload speed. Mainly a lot of the stuff is getting lower in the tree. 2 in restless if you happen to hit anything with your action skill. And mainly there wasn't anything else that is really affecting this build. Like there's nothing else that increases your damage by much, so I just put a bunch of points into here to get 1 into wrath, which gives you gun damage increase. A lot of these talents don't do much for the build, but nothing else is really going to do much with the build either, especially just because of how much straight damage you do with this build. So with that being said, we can go into our items. Now for our items, like I said, we are using the Yellowcake, which is a new launcher with the new Cartel event. I recommend going to farm this. I already have a video going over this weapon itself. It is incredibly strong, and this is just a launcher that lobs out rounds. It destroys everything because of how much damage it's doing, and it spreads around the longer they're flying. Ridiculous damage. I have a really good rolled one if you're doing boss fights. Gain 300% increased weapon damage against enemies above 90% health. Really good against bosses and single target killing stuff. It is still pretty good against a lot of smaller enemies because a lot of the time you can one-shot the smaller enemies, so you're going to get that damage increase because of how much this does. It just allows you to more easily one-shot most things, but this thing is a little bit hard to use as well, so keep that in consideration. The shots are kind of weird. Mainly how you want to use the Yellowcake is be at like a medium distance, because then you'll let the rounds spread out, which pretty much the longer it's in the air, the more they're spreading. They spread twice, so it basically just splits the rounds, and they do the same damage every round or every split. So if you hit something with 3 instead of 1, you're just doing a ridiculous amount of more damage. And this is the only weapon I'm using with this. This thing is so strong right now that you can kill pretty much any bosses with it, aside from maybe a few bosses that you can't really hit with it that well. And any smaller mobs, you can still one-shot most of them. So it's incredibly strong. For our class mod, or for our shield and our grenade mod, mainly with this build, I'm still using the on action skill end to gain 50% elemental bonus damage for 10 seconds. I'm mainly using that. These will be proc 100% of the time with this build. And so mainly you just want to look for a tanky shield with an elemental anointed on it. I'm using a stopgap right now and then a grenade mod with an elemental anointed on it. I don't really throw any grenades at all anyway. And don't stack the same elemental effect on the shield and grenade mod. So I have cryo and corrosive on right now. Don't do cryo, and then just get more of these so you can switch out whatever element you want for the situation. For a class mod, we already went over spiritual driver. Now, a best spiritual driver is going to be 3 into mindfulness. I only have 1, but this one has weapon damage roll. That's pretty much what I was looking for. I think the damage increase is probably similar compared to like a mindfulness with +3. That's pretty much how you want to look for the rolls. The spiritual driver is just incredibly strong. It doesn't matter if it's a terrible roll, make sure you have this class mod. Then for our artifact, we are using the elemental projector, which gives you increased damage while suffering or gives you increased damage to an element while suffering that element on yourself. Now, this is where infusion comes into play. So we are Amara and we can't apply radiation to ourselves. So with Yellowcake only being radiation, we use infusion. So 40% of that damage is whatever action skill element we're using. So we can still get some use out of elemental projector because this is still, with this build specifically, going to be the best damage increase you can get out of an artifact. Now, the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge is a good damage increase and would be better, but you're not going to be able to stack this up. For one, your weapon just hits too hard and kills things too quickly, so you're not going to be able to stack this up super effectively. And 2, it's a rocket launcher. You don't hit a lot of times very quickly, so that's why we're still using the elemental projector over this artifact. And that's pretty much the entirety of the build. It's pretty much just a slightly changed version of, you know, the normal spiritual driver build with using the new absolutely ridiculous Yellowcake rocket launcher. So subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this build, and thanks for watching.
Witness the Agonizer 9000!
Just be. I'm down for a brawl. That was for Maya.